Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Fall 2020 UNM-Taos Convocation. We're very excited to be with you all today as we hear from Chancellor Valdez on a review of highlights from this past year and as he outlines our goals and vision for the coming year. We'll get started here in just a moment. If I can remind everybody to please mute your microphones and turn on your video if you don't mind. We'd love to see your faces and everybody showing up with their UNM-Taos Lobo pride and their cherry red today. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome and call Dr. Valdez to take the floor. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much, and welcome everyone to Convocation 2020. I'm going to take a brief moment here to minimize the PowerPoint so that I can see everyone's face and kind of give a big wave to everybody as I'm scrolling through all the faces that are on here. So we've got a good turnout. So nice to see so many of you can join us. I also understand that there are a few of our staff who are out and presenting on behalf of UNM-Taos in other venues, so they wouldn't be able to make it. And then we may even have some instructors who are teaching class as well. So certainly nice to see as many people as we can joining us this morning. And so let me just kind of minimize here now as I've taken a view here. I think Pam's got probably the nicest background right now. Pam Ramstein, sitting outside. Look at her, sitting out there. All right. Well, again, welcome everyone. You know, Convocations is something that we started a couple of years ago here at UNM-Taos, and they're traditional in higher education institutions, and they really typically start on the first day of class, if not the first week. But this year, because of all the changes and all the things that we've done, specifically really focused on student success, student support, and mainly enrollments, making sure that we could keep our students enrolled. I wanted to wait until after our census date to do the convocation so that I could report where we stood with our numbers and our enrollment, because I know that that's something that people, obviously we're all most concerned about. And so without any hesitation, let me move forward to the first slide. And there might be a slight delay here, so just bear with us as we go through the slides. But let's see, is it up yet, Anita? Still. Oh, there we go. And I'm sure as many of you, it goes without saying, as many of you have probably witnessed or been a part of it in your own pivots to remote platforms, that sometimes the technology doesn't always work as fast as we do. So we certainly appreciate your patience as we go through the slides. So as of census, I should say, this year, our head count at the close of census, or after it was all said and done, was about 1,106 for fall 2020, and our credit hours were about 6,600. Now those were slight decreases from last year. We were at same time last year, we were at 1,200 students and about 7,924 student credit hours. Now, so that we're about 10% down on head count, but that doesn't mean that all is lost. So I want to make sure that we understand that given all the things that we had to face and all of the things that our students have to face in our community, 10% down is not terrible. I mean, we were bracing and expecting maybe 25% or upwards of 20, and in some other campuses throughout the state, that has been the case. So the fact that we were only down 10% in head count really, I think, shows how much all of us as a community pulled together to make sure that our students would stay enrolled, and those who were interested would continue to pursue their educational pursuits. Now, obviously, our admissions staff deserves a lot of credit for the work that's being done here with our students, but because we also have returning students, it's advising. And then I go into communications, I think what's also marketing. So when I think of all of that in totality, I always say all of us did a really good job making sure that our enrollments did not suffer greater than they did. And so here's some great highlights that I'd like to share with you regarding our enrollment. If you look there in terms of our head count, about 42% of our student population is made up of full-time students. And that's actually up 11 points. So that's a good thing. Conventional wisdom would have said that we would have lost students in that area. Our part-time student population was about 58%, down about negative -11. And that could be understood in the way that most of our part-time students might have hesitated whether or not they wanted to continue this semester with the pandemic. You could make the argument that our full-time students were a little bit, are keen, are a little bit more focused on trying to get through and even through a pandemic. You could present different hypotheses there, but these are the numbers. And like I said, really pleased to see that we're actually up a little bit in our full-time. Female, we were down about 1%, and in terms of our male population, we were up 1%. So those are the overall head counts, or percentages rather. And then point you to some really positive things. We were up 4% in our Native population. And so that's a good news for us. We want to make sure that all of the people in our community know that we are here to serve them. And we've worked really hard with our Native populations to make sure that we can see increases in that area. Our continuing students were up 10%, plus 10. That's excellent news. That means that our students who were enrolled, and this strategy that we employed at the end of spring to announce early that we were going to be remote, and then shift some of our staff members into these touch point teams, allowed us to stay in contact with those students to make sure that they would stay enrolled and not drop. And then again, back to the full-time, 21%, we're up 21% in our full-time student status. And most assumptions were that we'd be down there, that most of our students might be down. So, when you look at this, I just want to say congratulations to all of you, and thank you to all of you for all the work that you did this summer to make sure that our students knew that, or would know that they could continue their education without too much disruption. And so again, I want to thank you all for all the work that you did here. That this is, at the end of the day, this is really good news. I think what we have here now, we do have some work that we have to do moving forward. Any losses that we had could be attributed to the pandemic, but in some cases, if we look at data over the years, we know that it's not just a pandemic. There are just some areas where we need to work a little harder. So again, thank you so much for all the work you did there. If you look at our academic affairs, now what I'd like to do is I'm gonna run through all of the major departments that we have and kind of just mention some highlights of things that we've done this past year that will kind of culminate in where I think we're headed in the future. And so the vision, our mission, where we're headed this upcoming year is kind of woven throughout the presentation. So I'm not going to have one slide that says, okay, now here are our top strategies moving forward, or here are our, main initiatives. All of this is done daily and routinely and often. So I want to thank, and again, let me just say this, I want to thank all departments and everybody for the work that they did. So if you look at academic affairs, 84% of our courses were transferred online. That's huge. And kudos to the faculty and staff and all the support staff to help those staff and the faculty move those services, or the classrooms to remote platforms. We also know that we did that with our student services. We have about 6% of our classes that are online and or fully, 6% that are in person. And if they need to, they could convert to remote platforms. I also want to recognize in the academic affairs area, we've continued to grow our child care center, our early childhood program. Part of that is done by having some of our faculty members stay involved in the community. We're highlighting Taylor Etchemelody, who was selected here to be on an advisory council, the early childhood education and care department, which is a statewide position. So we're excited that she's representing UNM-Taos in that area. Our culinary arts program, for years we've been using the partnership with the Taos Municipal Schools, the high school, to get in there. That over the past years, that program has not grown at the rate that we would have liked, in part because of the facility use. And so we were limited in many ways. And so we've now signed this contract, this MOU with the TCDC, and we'll be doing culinary arts there. And we're really excited about that partnership. We've got a great culinary arts instructor who came in, and she's just doing some great things. So considering where we're at, considering the service industry and the restaurants and the hotels, we believe that that's a program that should be thriving. And we're going to continue working hard to make sure that people who want to go into that field can. We also want to recognize our alumni, Heather Bergenson and Laurel Taylor, who were one or two of 60 artists that were selected. Their work was featured. And so anytime our alum get out there in the community, and UNM-Taos is assigned to that, that's good for us and shows the good work that we're doing in that department, in all of our departments. I'm going to skip around. I won't read each bullet point to you because you guys can review them yourselves. But our natural resources program continues to do well. Our dual credit program is sometimes up and down, but not as a result of any of the work that that we do, but sometimes as a result of the superintendents that decide where and when they want to offer those courses. We've done very well in that area nonetheless in dual credit, and we just expanded into a welding program at Cuesta. And then UBMS mentioned before, the great work that we're doing there to make sure that our students know that they have a pathway, and of course this beautiful new STEM building that we have to make sure that they know that that's available. And so again, just thank you to all the people in the academic affairs area, all the faculty who are working hard, who also are having to learn, like our students, to do new things, do old things in new ways. So thank you to all of them. We can go to the next slide. I think this is a really big file, so again, I appreciate your patience. Now, closely tied to all of the work that we're doing, more than ever now with these remote platforms, is information technology, our IT department. What can I say? I mean, anybody who's had to switch and had to work with that department knows the value that we have for them, and how important they are. And on this one, I just like to highlight a couple of things. One is that we've, not only do we offer, these services to all of our faculty and our staff, but we've also done things in that area to make sure that our students and faculty and staff that had to work from home had the supports that they need, and will continue doing that. And in this area, obviously, not only lending out hotspots to people, but also accessories, which oftentimes get overlooked, but are important, cameras, keyboards, and things of that nature, microphones, and so forth. The other thing is that we also invested into a remote platform where people could, you call in and IT can log into your computer without you ever having come to campus. And that's a great resource for us to have. It allows them to provide that service without too much interrupting in your life, and most importantly, without having to put yourself at risk if that's something that you're concerned about. And then if you look at the top here, and this leads into the last thing I'll say about this department, is that we're on our way to becoming one of the most technologically advanced community college HSIs in the country. And I mean that because of the fact that if you walk around our campus, and that we have so much technology in our classrooms, and part of engaging in that technology is making sure that we have softwares that support that. And so this year we purchased the Adobe Creative Campus for all of our faculty and all that are using it, and all of our students. We're the only branch campus to support this initiative. I mean, the main campus is offering it to all their students. We were the only branch, and I wanted to do that because I wanted to make sure that the faculty and the staff and everybody knows where I stand when it comes to technology and the use of it in increasing not only our learning platforms, but also our learning outcomes. So I would encourage all of you to jump into the Adobe Creative Suite if you haven't already, and find out ways that you can use this to engage students at a greater level, and meet them where they're at in their technology acumen, but also to make sure that we're increasing our learning outcomes. Thank you on that one. I'm going to take a coffee sip in between, Anita. That way gives time for conversion. Student Affairs. I want to thank the Student Affairs team for all the work that they did over the summer. When we think of Student Affairs, we think of all the things that represent us to the incoming students, really. Our advisors work hard in the academic affairs area to continue staying in touch with our enrolled students and our returning students. But for our new student populations, which are huge, the student affairs area oversees admissions and financial aid. This year they did like everybody else. They converted all of the things that we've been doing face-to-face into these virtual platforms. We held a virtual open house for the first time that was well attended. But also there was a recording of it, so students could log in and view that whenever they needed. And this also got picked up by an Albuquerque news station. So we received some press for our virtual open house, even in the Albuquerque market. So I know that was something that the team was really excited about. We've also engaged in an award spring scholarship platform. This is going to help us identify and give out scholarships more clearly to students, so they can understand that process and we can understand it. And then we launched Full Measure. You'll see on here there's a Full Measure. And what Full Measure is a system where we can nudge students through text messages. So we know that sometimes there's email exhaustion. And even though we're trying to communicate with our students through all the virtual platforms that we have, one thing that we've often not done is communicate to their cell phones, which we know most of us are often glued to. And so this Full Measure is a way for us to continue to send out announcements to remind students, hey, if you haven't registered yet, registration opens in a week. If you haven't talked to your advisor, make sure that you're speaking to your advisor. If you have questions about enrollments, if you're a new student, contact enrollment office. So this is going to be a way for us to another touch point that we can use. So we're excited about that full measure platform that we launched about a week ago, I believe, to our students. We continue to hold virtual office hours. And then here at the bottom, underneath the virtual open house, you'll see that the number of spring graduates that we had about 40 associates, 22 certificates, and then we even had 28 in the summer and 17 as well. So this is an important statistic and number, because it means that despite the disruption of COVID, we maintained our services, and our students maintained their commitments, and they were able to get out with a degree, and hopefully they're better served now going through the pandemic recovery. So congratulations to those students and to the Student Affairs Office. Student Support Services. I'm very proud of this division. And let me just state here, when I'm very animated when I speak, at times. So when I say that I'm very proud, it doesn't mean I'm not proud of other groups. So don't take that the wrong way. But I'm very proud of the Student Support. Oftentimes the support services that, are actually face-to-face, I know that we have classrooms that are face-to-face, but sometimes when you have to give that extra effort to tutor or reach out to students or to advise, sometimes it's more important to be in a face-to-face setting. So to have to convert all of these things into remote platforms is also a challenge, and you have to be very creative. And so they also helped us make sure that we could give out 38 hotspots that we purchased for students. So every office here is figuring out ways to shift their programs to remote and find ways, that students can continue to be connected, right? So if a student says, well, I'd like to get tutored or mentored, but, I don't have a hotspot, then they're on it going, okay, well, how do we figure out to make sure that this student can get a hotspot? And so we had about 38 that were given out, have been given out so far. We also created a touch point team. This was an idea where, when we converted to remote platforms, our concern was, not only our students, but also our staff that have been working in offices that maybe couldn't do their work from home. The majority of us could, all that could are, but there was a few that we weren't sure. And rather than be concerned about those individuals losing jobs or not being able to stay employed, we figured out a way to convert them into what we call a touch point team. And this was a way to increase contact with our students. So it's almost like a caseload. This is actually something that I've shared nationally with some groups, and I'm hoping that Ed Trust, which is a major education group out of Washington, is writing up some articles, and they may be highlighting some of the things that we did in this area as a small rural college. And so I'm excited about that and the great work we did there. And of course, CASA, the mall, and the library, all the work that Kathleen and the library have been doing to make sure that our students still had access, not only virtually, but at the same time, if there was a way they needed to figure out for students to turn books in or come check out books and things of that nature, they made it happen. So again, thank you to everyone in the Student Support Services. You're a big reason, our students, for our returning student population and the continuing number that we have. So thank you for the work that you did there. Our facilities management and capital projects. This is exciting. So, sometimes out of sight, out of mind, right? So if you're not on campus seeing the things that are happening daily, you can often forget that things are still happening. Well, for the facilities management team, for Jessica's team, they've not been at home having to figure out how to work from home and so forth. They have maintained their status on our campus. They continue to go to campus every day and working on projects. And I was talking to Jessica just the other day, and I was quite surprised even because she showed me these pictures that I'm not sharing with you. This is going to be in our new Faculty Development Center and Conference Room in Pueblo Hall. So when you get back to campus, when we get back, this is awaiting our faculty. This is something the faculty had asked us to do for some time. And I wanted to say thank you to Randy, Dean Archuleta, and Facilities Management for the work that we did to figure out how we could get this to happen. So there's a beautiful new Faculty Development Center waiting for faculty when we return. So areas where we said we didn't have enough space, this will be a shared space throughout the week, but you have a place to go now, adjuncts and faculty and so forth. So we're really excited about that. So the projects continue to happen on our campus despite us not seeing them happen every day. So I want you to be excited about that. We're also repainting areas. We're putting up art. So I think many of us will come back. It'll be like Christmas when we get back to when we get back to campus. We may not recognize some of it, but thank you so much for the work that they're doing. A couple of things I do want to highlight. We're also working on a Taos infrastructure master plan for our campus. You know, in the past, we've had problems at times with water usage from the town if the line goes out, and all of you know what that feels like. So we're looking at investing into an infrastructure system that will allow us to not be independent. Obviously, we still need to count on that water vein that comes in, but at least allow us to continue operating in the case there's a disruption or a break. So we're going to invest into that master plan. Our STEM chem classrooms. This is something that is occurring in our STEM building. We have, I know that can't see the STEM faculty, but I'm sure that they're jumping up with elation. When we created the new STEM building, we weren't able to do chem classes at that time because we hadn't really made it so that we could do it, right? So we knew we had STEM, but we knew that this would be a project that we would do after we built it. Well, we're close to getting that phase kicked off so that we can make that an actual chem lab. So I can't see all of the faculty that are in the STEM area, but I do see Marty, and he looks like he's smiling. So sure, that's exciting and a dream come true there, that we'll be able to do our chemistry classes in our STEM building. This is kind of like the culinary arts. We've had to depend on the high school, and so we're limited. So now we'll be able to go out and really provide these courses at the times that meet our students. We continue to do our HVACs. We're doing our inspections with the fire department around our life safety issues. And then I'll close on this. They are doing not only all of these things, but they are also keeping our campus clean for all of you that are having to use those classrooms. And so when we sometimes bear down with making you check in and do the schedule, and you can't just show up to our campus, just remember that we have everybody's health and safety in mind. So again, be patient with that, understand the protocols, and understand that when we do this, we're not only keeping our custodial staff and our facilities management team who are there every day safe, but they're working hard to make sure that all of us are safe. So I appreciate your understanding and patience in those areas. Jumping into BCAM. So, we about 3 years ago or 2 years ago, we decided that we really needed to invest in sharing the great things that we were doing in our campus with the community, not only with our UNM-Taos community, but also with our much larger Taos County community. And so we created the BCAM office that's run by Anita Bringus and her team. They've done great work. About a year and a half ago, too, we had, we'll do surveys and things where faculty will let us know, what can we approve, and our staff will let us know. And one of the things that was mentioned a few years ago was more communication, like what's going on our campus, what's happening. And so I think that we've really risen to meet that request. I certainly send out as many memos as I can to keep us informed. But we also now have the Lobo Traco newsletter, which we launched in the spring, which if you hadn't seen, you should see because it's a beautiful piece of work. They'll be putting that out again here shortly. We also launched our Lobo Bites. Raise your hand if you've read the Lobo Bites. Of you. Okay, so those I can see. So those are quick bites. And notice the use of the word Lobo Tracker, Lobo Bite. We're really diving into making sure that our students in the community know that we are UNM. And so these things have just been great quick hitters to announce the great work that all of you are doing. So if you are doing something good, make sure that you're sharing that information with Anita and the BCAM staff. They also help me whenever we do video messages that we send out and so forth. So again, thank you for all the great work, and you can see some of the work that they're doing there. Oh, and I should mention before I get off this slide, if you look at the one, the biggest, the individual one picture, I guess at the bottom there, where it says "Find Your Pathway to Success," we're a few days, if it hasn't already happened, away from this being on a billboard just south of our campus, off of the county road that comes in, or the state highway that comes in from out of the Horseshoe. So we will, for the first time ever, have a billboard that has UNM-Taos displayed on it. And we're certainly excited about that. I mean, I don't know if you've driven from Santa Fe recently, but when you're starting to get near Española, you always see this billboard for the college that is located in Española. Well, when people start come in and visit Taos, they're going to see UNM-Taos and is in this community. So we're excited about that poster board or that road sign. Oh, I should also mention here the website. We are launching a new website. This is something that people, faculty, staff have been asking for, students, and so we've begun work on that. So we're excited about that. And all of this leads to UNM-Taos in the news. So if you read the paper or if you're on social media, you've probably seen these advertisements, where we highlight our faculty and our staff and our programs, and our students as well. And so this is just, this is good stuff for us. For us to make sure that the community knows that we are here, but not only that we're here, but what we're doing in the community to help them. Can you go to the next one, Nita? Many of you participated or had a chance to see our virtual celebration of our graduates this past spring. Obviously wasn't ideal, but something that we wanted to make sure that we did to recognize. And if you look at all the little homage that we have of all the different pictures, these are some things that we can't put together. Took some photos of some of the meetings that we had, some of our coffees, some of our Zoom-ins, and people held up signs saying congratulations and thank you. If you didn't understand the value of those kind of things, my hope is that having lived in this virtual remote world now for the last 6 months, my hope is that you do. Because I certainly know that I appreciate these kind of things more than I ever thought that I would, and before they might have just been in passing, but now they're really meaningful because these are the ways that we have to communicate. We've also done a lot of work with the high school. Obviously we want to have a great relationship with the high school in this area, to make sure that those students that are in that area know that UNM-Taos is a great place for students to come after they graduate. And you can't take that for granted. We've got so many ambassadors on our campus, but the more that we have our high schools, and not just Taos Municipal, it's the larger one, but there are several throughout the area that we work with, and some of the charters, the more that they know what we're doing in the community, the more that they're going to advocate and be ambassadors for us. So ostensibly, they become recruiters for UNM-Taos, and that's really what we want. And so we've done some things with them. Obviously, this our article in the paper, or this ad rather, I should say, showing the thanks that the superintendent has given us for all the work that we did. BCAM really helped them get the word out this summer. And of course, Academic Affairs and Dual Credit continue to work closely with them to make sure that we're offering the courses that we need in the ways that we need to. And then down here at the bottom, you'll see just some of the other highlights that we did. Our nursing department preparing, nurses for the future, which continue to do a great job at that, even more so now than ever. Building a workforce down here is when we had the Secretary of Early Childhood visit. And so we're excited about all those things, and we're excited about those things being shared in the news. UNM-Taos Hive is buzzing. We've talked about Hive quite often, but it warrants being mentioned in this convocation, because this is what will be helping us bring a digital and gig economy to the Taos area and to a rural community. And that's a huge deal, because it not only means that we're changing things in the classroom for students, but it means that as a community college, we're trying to figure out ways that we can help lift the entire community. And so this will benefit not only our students, but will benefit families and the community at large. And so Hive continues to push forward. There's an event that we're having for Hive next week. We'll be signing an agreement, an official agreement with them, with Kit Carson, so that we can use that command center as the official Hive location when we're able to get back in person. So things continue to move in that direction as well. And I believe a lot of that staff is currently making a pitch right now for some EDA funding. So let's wish them well and a lot of good luck this morning. So UNM-Taos in the community, as I've showed, we're in the news, and that's important, and all that, all of the departments and all the things that we're doing culminate ultimately in how we exist in our community. And so these are just some highlights of some things that we've done. Obviously I've talked about Hive. You also look at there, what I think is also really important is the joint that we joined the Taos Education Collaborative, and that allowed us to work with them and others to be committed to figuring out how to give free internet access to our students. And so our campus is made available to students who want to come park in our parking lot access. I think in total, they're trying to get to 100. Last count I received was about 79 throughout the area. And that's huge. And I'm sure that throughout social media or Facebook, whatever you've been on, you've seen pictures of students having to sit outside Taco Bell's or McDonald's to try and get their work done. Well, that may still be the case in some areas, but here we're really trying to make sure that people can drive up, not have to stand outside, to do that, but they can sit in their cars. And so that's a huge deal. We're committed to doing that. We continue to offer our Veterans Upward Bound program, continue to provide those services to our veterans, which is an important population that we continue to reach out to and make sure that we can help them transition from the military back into the civilian life. We also doing a Haku. There's a Haku banner here. We have students involved in the Haku Adelantes scholarship program. It's a student leadership conference. We sponsored a couple of students who are going to attend that virtually. So, nothing stops there. We still have an expectation that students will engage in national initiatives, and we're pushing them to do that. So thank you to the teams for identifying those students, and kudos to the students for wanting to continue to engage in that area. We were involved with the Taos Pueblo, the back to school drive, making sure that our Pueblo know that we're here to serve them as well. And again, I think that's reflected in the increase in the number of Native American students that we have on our campus. And then lastly, I'll just mention that we're part of the COAD, which I've talked about before, but I think deserves mentioning again. I mean, this is a huge deal for us. It's a community organizations in active disaster. And there are several that have engaged in this, several communities that have engaged in these types of COADs throughout the country. But I believe based on what David Elliott told us, and he's involved nationally, we're probably one of the more active ones and really working together and making things happen for our community. So this is an important thing for us to be a part of, because it means not only are we saying we know that we're here to provide post-secondary education opportunities and all these other supports to the community, but we're saying, but we're also here to make sure we can leverage every resource that we have to help all parts of the community, as long as we can find ways to do that without violating any of the uses of our public funds. And we've been very successful in that area. On that note, I want to remind people that Census 2020 is about to close. So if you haven't done your census yet, please do it. We've talked about this before, but this is funding for Taos County. It's up to $5,000 per person for the next 10 years. So if, for every person that doesn't do their census, the county loses money. And we've seen this is money for all of the programs that we have in this area, not only education, but health and human services and so forth. So let's make sure that if you haven't done it, that you do it. And if you know somebody that hasn't, that you encourage them to do it. And so there's a contact there at the bottom for you to, some numbers that you can call. And also we have coming up in November, we want to make sure we get out the vote. So these are ways that UNM-Taos continues to be involved in the community that is not directly related to academic affairs or post-secondary education, but in terms of civic engagement is making sure that we're good neighbors. So we want to continue to push out census. We do get and find ways to get involved in those efforts. We also want to make sure that people get out to vote. I know obviously we don't support one party over another, or one initiative or prop over the other, but we do support fully civic engagement and our right to vote, to participate in the democratic election. And so I want to encourage all of you to make sure that we get out to do that. That said, there are some things that specifically related to Taos, to UNM-Taos, that I would want to make sure that you're aware of. And again, can't push you one way or the other, but in the coming election, we will have a GEO bond for UNM-Taos, a general obligation bond, B and C. B will help support UNM-Taos and some infrastructure projects that we have planned for the future. And C will help support the library. And so for more information on that, I would encourage you to go to those websites that are listed there. And if you want more information on the library, you can contact Kathleen. If you wanted more information on the general bond, you can contact Anita and she could get you out more information. And all of that is to highlight, all of this culminates, I should say, not necessarily to highlight. So we have a development office. Now, the reason that I didn't place them at the beginning with all the other offices was because I wanted to show that all of the things that we're doing in our community, all of the things that I've mentioned, not only in the UNM-Taos community, but in the larger community, all lead to efforts of the development office. And this is an office that's run by Louis Moya. And Louis, is a person that's charged with going out there and for grants that help support our academic initiatives, but also our capital project initiatives. And so here's a list of things that we've done in the development office over the past year, applications that we currently have in progress, and other projects that we're working on. What I would highlight here, because I think that all of this is important, but what's really important is the scholarships. That if you look at the fall 2020 scholarships, that we have about $35,000 that are available, and that we only lost one donor this past year, despite the pandemic. who wanted to commit. And I believe that donor, decided that they needed to put monies elsewhere because of the pandemic. But that we only lost one shows not only the great work that we're doing as a college and to show the value that we have and the impact that we have, but it also shows that that Lewis is out there, continuing to make those relationships with our community and making sure that they know that they want to give money and they want to support students, that we're the place to do it. So thank the development office for all the work that they're doing there, for all the support that we get with grants, both at the state and national level. So. It's like one of those situations where the silence is deafening. And so this is something, this is a new pathways building that we've been working on, that we've been working with the main campus and team here on our campus. As you know, that many of you know that in the last GEO bond, that was passed a couple of years ago, those gave us monies to build a new pathways building on our campus. And so I'm happy to show you some illustrations of the elevations of what that building will look like. This building, and I'll cross my fingers here, but maybe I should say it like this. By the end of next spring, we'll probably break ground on this building and we'll start building this new pathways building on our campus. And this is going to be really cool. It's really exciting. I want to thank all the teams that worked on this, the academic, the student support services team that came together to work with not only the interior design of that building, but also who worked on gave input on how the architecture and the elevation should look on the outside. I can't think, you never want to single out individuals because, everybody works hard, but I do want to give a special thanks to Jessica, who is our senior operations, manager. She oversees facilities, but she also runs all of our capital outlay and all of these design projects. It's a huge amount of work to do both of those things. And so she's our main point person with the main campus. And so a lot of what we see in these new buildings is a result of her expertise and her experience. So I want to make sure that we definitely thank her for that work. But again, so many teams came together to work on this building. So thank you to all of you. You know who you are. Thank you to all of you who did that. And I hope that you're as excited as I am with this building, because it's not easy to get buildings approved through the GEO bond, and it's not easy to get them approved through the higher education department and then the Board of Finance. And we did, and Marty's shaking his head because he's been there. And we did all of that this past summer. We got, did I lose you, Anita?
Is everybody there? The connection snapped out for a minute.
Okay.
We're all here.
Are we there? Sorry about that.
It's all right. We're moving into the closing remarks section.
Yeah. Thanks for hanging in there, everybody.
Yep.
I'm glad we came back right away.
We can see you. We can hear you.
Thanks, everybody. You're set to resume whenever you're ready, Dr. Valdez.
Is it back on? I think there's a little delay from me.
We can't see the screen.
Yes, we're back
okay.
on.
Let me give me just a moment to reshare my screen. Okay. How's that? Can you see?
There you go. Well, this is just building suspense for the big finish, So our closing remarks, in May, we decided early that we would go to these remote platforms because we thought it was the best thing. That time was our greatest asset. It's really how we felt. We needed to make sure that our faculty and our staff had time to prepare to these remote platforms and to make sure that our students that were going to be seeking to enroll in our programs understood where we were at, and we had to make sure that those that were going to be returning also knew what we were at. And so I've kind of talked a little bit about all that. And so what I'd like to announce for the spring 2020 today is officially that we will be staying the course on these remote platforms through spring 2020. I think that when we made this decision back in May, at least from a personal standpoint, my thought was that we were probably going to be doing this for the entire year. So what lies ahead for us is kind of a carbon copy of what we've done in the fall, converting it over into the spring. Look, if we can get back to campus, great. I mean, all of us would love to be able to get back into campus, would love to resume our pivot back to these platforms. So we're not going to mess around with that. we're going to announce the schedule that's being worked on. That will come back in October for November and spring registration. So, we have our work cut out for us. We have to continue to keep students engaged. We have to continue to keep students enrolled. So nothing changes. And so my hope is that by announcing this early, that you feel the same way you did back in May, that at least you know where we're headed. You can start gearing up for that. I want to continue to encourage all of you to do what you've been doing to get better in your remote platforms. There's always room for improvement. There's always new information that's coming out in professional development. I want to encourage you to do that. And I want you to remember always, that our values as a community college or as a college rest in student support and student success. I don't believe I hold that value alone. I think we all believe that's what we're here for. The second value that we hold is community, the way that we engage in our community, the way that we get involved in our community. And I think we've exhibited today the ways that we've done that in the past and the ways that we want to continue doing that. And I also want to make sure that we never forget that for the majority of the students that we have, we're the only option. For probably 80–90% of those students, whether it's a certificate or a 2-year or a transfer pathway. I mean, we're a place where they have to start, and perhaps now more so than ever. And what all that amounts to, and I think that I mentioned this last year, but I think I mentioned it again and continue to mention it, is that the impact that we have on the social mobility of our students, and that's from dual credit to lifelong learners. But we play an important role in making sure that students have opportunities to increase their incomes, which increases the tax base in the county, which increases the livelihood in our community. And that's no small measure. We continue to hold true that education is a public good, that it's not a privatized commodity the way it's become in some areas where only those who can afford it can get it. We do everything we can to make sure that everyone is welcome on our campus, and that we always want to make sure that tuition is never a barrier. And that's why the development office and the scholarships that we get, and the Pell Grants that we get, and all the grants that we get from the federal government that people work hard to make sure we get, that's why we do it. Because we never want students to not come to campus because it's not affordable or to come to college. But in addition to that, we also understand that the tuition is just one of the barriers that our students face. And in fact, in some cases, it may be the least of the challenges that our students face. They face many challenges outside of the classroom. So I'm so proud of all the work that all of you did to make sure that our students stayed enrolled, and the work that you continue doing to make sure that they continue to stay engaged. I know that it's also challenging for many of you, but we can't give up, and we got to keep pushing. We got to keep, making sure that the students always see the light. The light that we carry, and that light is an educational pathway to more options for their families. So again, thank you. And the last thing that I'll say, and this is also very exciting, kind of along with the pathways, all of the work that we're doing and that you've been doing amounts to this huge announcement that I think most of you, all of us should get excited about. So if you've not heard of it, I'd like to introduce you to the In Depth with Lawrence Fishburne. It's a program that airs on the Discovery Channel. This coming season, or their next season, they are doing a series where they're going to focus on higher education and community colleges. They contacted me about 6 weeks ago and said that through some of the research they've done, they thought UNM-Taos might be a good candidate for this series that airs nationally. And they said, of course, we're one of 8 or 9 colleges that they were going to be interviewing and talking to. So they contacted me. We spoke for about 45 minutes, shared all the great work that you guys are doing. And I've been somewhat measured during this conversation, but those of you who know me that I'm pretty animated and get excited about the work that we're doing and how we do it. And so I guess it resonated. They contacted me about a week and a half later and said that they wanted to select us to be the college that they would focus on and that they would highlight. And so we've signed an agreement with them. We won't meet Lawrence Fishburne, but he is the person who moderates and the person who introduces, at the beginning of the program. But we will be working with them over the next several months. They've got a film schedule that they've sent out to us. We will have to get to campus using our CSPs to be interviewed in some of these segments. But ultimately, it ends up being about a 5 or 6 minute documentary that they do on UNM-Taos, what we're doing to help our students, what we're doing in the community to lift the rural community, and then after that, it gets played on nationally, syndicated nationally on public broadcast stations. I think they even mentioned that there'll be 1-minute segments on MSNBC and CNN. And so this is a big deal. And this is a result of the commitment and the work that all of you are doing. And I've said this before, anytime UNM-Taos or anytime I get invited to do something on a national level, it's the work that you do makes it easy for me to say yes to those things, because trust me, you don't want to get in front of a national audience and have nothing to say or nothing to contribute to. But because I have so much because of the work that you're doing, it makes it easy. But this is a celebration of all of us. And so over the next several months, we'll be working with the in-depth series to highlight the work that we're doing. And it's not about enrollments for us necessarily. The enrollments are important. Obviously, we want head count, but we're a small college in a rural area, so there's probably at some point a ceiling to the number of students that we can enroll on our campus. This is more about being an example of what a small rural community college that's committed can do to not only help its students, but help the community. And that's really the bent that we want to have with this in-depth series. And so that's a big deal. So if there's some college out in rural Kansas or Montana that sees us, sees that documentary, hopefully they go, man, look what they're doing out in that small rural community, the impact that they're having, and maybe we can be a best practice for them. And then most importantly, our students, and perhaps our young students in the area, for them to see that UNM-Taos, this small little rural college, could be highlighted at the national level. What does it tell them? It tells them that they can dream no matter what. It tells them that they can, as we often say, they can start here and go anywhere. Right? And so really excited that we were recognized and contacted by this series, and really thankful that the work that you do allowed me to be as excited as I could be to want to be one of those that was selected, or the one that was selected to represent. So again, that's the big news and that's the big finish. So hopefully you're excited about that. And at this point, I had, and we continue to push stay local, think global, and go Lobos. I told Anita initially that I didn't want to maybe not take any questions because I didn't want to keep you longer than I had to. But considering that this is, it seems so personal, I'd be willing to take a few questions if anybody had any. We've got about 10 minutes. So if anybody have any questions.
So you're welcome to pop some any questions into the chat box, or if you want to go ahead and unmute your microphone and pose a question, you're welcome to do that as well.
We don't typically take questions at Convocation, but usually we have a chance to mingle afterwards. But since we're not able to mingle afterwards, like I said, I'll take a few questions if anybody has any, or comments, positive comments. No, that's a quiet bunch on this Friday. I think I'm going to do Zooms and Chancellor's Coffee with the Chancellors on Friday mornings now. All right. Well, again, thank you so much for giving me time this morning to sit here for Convocation. Convocation, like I said, are done typically at the beginning of the year to kind of set the tone for what we want to get done. It's a different year for everybody, for all of us. And the great thing is that if you look around and scroll through the sheets here, my hope is that you realize you're not alone, that we're all in this together. And that the most important thing that we can do is continue to support and lean on each other, trust each other, trust our departments, trust the work that's getting done. If we can do that, I think that we show the community and the students that they can also trust us. And once you get that trust, they're going to keep coming, and they're going to keep coming back. So again, thank you so much. Muchísimas gracias for joining me today. I'll be doing a virtual session with the Michigan Community College Consortium later this afternoon. If you have time or interest, it's going to be about how I'm using a virtual world, social media, to share the great news that we're doing at UNM-Taos. So if you get a chance and you want to join that, please do. Other than that, again, thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to seeing you at the State of the College in the spring. Have a good Friday and a good weekend.
Thank you, Dr. Valdez. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Hey, Juliana.
Thanks,
Have a great
Juliana.
weekend. Adios.
Juliana, what's going on? How are you?
Oh, I'm all right. Just, on lockdown in Peñasco.
Hey,